What is going on, guys? I'm back again with another art process, and today is simply just an art process. It's just me kind of speaking over doing some art. I've been making these how to get over art block videos, and I've been making videos with kind of like a theme every time I've been trying to make a video. So this time I'm just coming in kind of without a theme, just making a piece of art, just kind of talking about something I did a while ago. This character is Melkor. If you don't know who Melkor is, you know, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I'm kind of a everyman. I kind of like everything. I like sports, I like comic books, I like friggin' movies, I like everything I can think of. I like cooking. I'm into everything, right? And Lord of the Rings is one of those kind of like guilty pleasures of mine, and I wanted to kind of know more about Lord of the Rings, so I started to go to YouTube to find stuff out. And then I found out that Sauron is just, you know, the second Dark Lord. The original Dark Lord was this guy, Melkor. I don't know if this is what you'd make him really look like, but I always thought of him as kind of like an elfy kind of looking Dark Lord guy with dark hair, which is kind of weird, like a dark elf, because he was one of the Valar, and they're kind of like angels, but they're always depicted as kind of looking like elves. So that's kind of what I used as my reference. But yeah, overall, you know, obviously I did this in Procreate like I do most of my things. I can just kind of save my screen recordings and make videos out of them. And I think anyone who has Procreate should be doing the same thing if they can, because you get a cool video process and you can kind of do something with it if you choose to. But what I learned about the character was that he was basically modeled after Satan directly. He was like a Satan kind of reference. And I always thought that about Sauron, you know, just the way he's depicted seems very evil, but he's actually just the second coming of this guy. You know, it's hard to define which one of them's more evil. I'd say Melkor, but at the same time, both of them are pretty dark dudes. But, you know, overall, when doing this process, I kind of went in blind. I used a lot of brushes that kind of like don't paint solid strokes. They're kind of very opacity driven, and I find that using opacity strokes doesn't work as well when you don't have a really clean line art foundation. I think it's better to have a foundation of lines before you do that stuff, you know. And either way though, you know, it can be fun to go either way, but it's just a longer path if you do it this way. You know, this path for me is longer because you don't have defined kind of like foundations to build upon, and it's always good to be able to build upon foundations when doing a painting. You know, it always helps if you can, you know, see the direction you're going in. When I was doing this, I was kind of painting blind. It's like painting and experimentation at the same time. And if anything, I've learned that this is probably the worst way to work. Luckily for me, I've worked so many different ways. I've developed so many different separate styles. I've done so many different things that I can kind of get through a painting like this, but it's not a positive thing to do, in my opinion. It's not sensible to paint this way at all. I really don't think it makes any sense. I think it makes more sense, and I've said this time and time again, to streamline your process. And honestly, this was a lucky one for me, because there's a lot of pieces on my iPad right now that I cannot finish because I have not streamlined my process. 100%. I cannot finish them because my process is not streamlined. I swear. You know, and obviously that's problematic for me because I kind of want them finished, but I know when I go in, I'm going to have to overhaul the whole thing and throw in some solid brush strokes and make the shapes a little bit more bold and kind of get them to a place where I can streamline it, because the place that they're at now, they can't really be streamlined, you know, and that's the one. So I feel like overall, all of you artists need to hear this, and I've said this in a bunch of different videos. Please, if you're going to do drawing and painting, have a good foundation drawing first, then have a good line drawing, then figure out the colors, and then go from there. And I've said this again and again, if you're a fantasy artist, there's only a few fantasy artists that do fantasy art differently than this. And the best way to do it is have a really defined idea of where you're going, you know, almost like a comic book artist. Have a very defined pencil stage drawing first that you can add paint to. Then you have clear guidelines, and when you add in the paint, you need flat colors and you need other things to kind of go forward before you kind of mess around. And this is something that I think is invaluable information, and I've been trying to tell people this for the longest time, and I'm just gonna keep reinforcing it, even though I don't always do it myself, and I should. I don't care. Even though I don't, I should. Even with this process, I should have. It would have been better, and it would have got done faster, and it would have had more style for it. It would have had some lines that might have gave it a lot more style, and that's how I look at it, you know. But anyway, guys, you know, just keep this, please just keep this in mind, because I've always have to stress this. And moving forward, I promise you, I'm gonna do this more often, but it's just timing. Sometimes you just do a sketch and it gets better. But even recently, I've done something similar to this, in a similar process to this, right? And it just, I had to kind of regress it to a point of where I could get it to be streamlined. Just like I said before, I had to start doing things that I say going forward, I can help myself actually get to a place of finish with this, because that's what it's about. It's about understanding that you have to put yourself in a position to be able to close this piece, because if it's not clean enough, people won't appreciate it. If it's not, you know, well enough defined, people won't get what's going on. If the colors aren't cohesive, if the strokes aren't solid, people won't read things as, you know, united. And that's how I look at it. So it's always good to have a good foundation. Now Procreate has gotten so much better at painting recently, like the blender brushes, everything. There's a few hacks to that, and I'm gonna probably make a video about it, because I made one about the blender brush before, but I think I need to make a video about how many hacks the blender brush has, because the blender brush has these hacks where if you paint on a solid mass, it blends better than if you paint on a layer without paint on it. So you should always have a solid selection of where you want to paint, so you can get that very painterly canvas textured kind of feeling from the blender brush. I don't think I used the blender brush in this process. I think I was using the square brush, and I was using kind of like a lot of smudge tool, I think. But I've made so many brushes over the years with Procreate, and this piece is probably almost 2 years old, or a year and a half. This piece is old, by the way, you know. And but still, it was when I look at it, it's one of the pieces that has it's the most dynamic, because I did it. I don't know what brushes I used, and I've made so many brushes. It's probably one of my brush sets that I've made, you know, and I don't really kind of like have any idea of exactly what I was going for stylistically when I started it, you know. And usually I think that stylistically what I try and do is create something very fantasy art that has kind of comic book kind of accent to it. And that's honestly kind of where I am artistically. And if you hear my phone going off, I am sorry. Today my phone is blowing up. I can't put it on silent because a lot of these messages are important. So YouTube, I am sorry. You have my apologies. And it's usually the blooming case when I make videos, and you know, that my phone's just going doop 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 doop. But I just have so much client work. I just have so many things that need amending, and if I ignore them, I'll forget about them. I'll go downstairs, I'll do some meal prep, and I'll just forget that things need doing, and all of a sudden I'm more bogged down than I should be. So, you know, I'm sorry. But hey, this video was literally just me rambling for 10 minutes about this process, about, you know, Lord of the Rings, about Melkor, you know, about stuff like that. But yeah, I drew this just because I thought, you know, the character descriptions online, and there's a YouTube channel called Men of the West, and there's another channel called Nerd of the Rings, and then there's another channel called the Exploring Series, and they're all very good databases for like fictional characters and book kind of synopsises and stuff like that. If you want to learn more about this character, if you want to learn more about kind of like what happened in Lord of the Rings, like before the films, because the films are set quite late in the timeline. So many things happen before that, which is wild. But obviously the films make you feel like the world's very rich anyway, you know, and it is. So, you know, that's all I can really say about this. But yo, guys, thank you for watching anyway. You can see me adding my finishing touches. I added all that glow. I don't know what that weapon would be called. It's some kind of a scepter slash mace slash pointy thing, but I just kind of put it together because I remember Sauron having something like that. I had a Sauron action figure when I was a kid, and he had some kind of a crazy weapon like that. I'm just adding some quick shadows with a multiply layer right now. And yeah, this was one of my more favorite things that I did a few years ago. I guess it wasn't you know, recently at all, you know, but it's just one of those things I just haven't got around to posting it. But as I said, Procreate keeps your processes, and if you kind of like what I do, I send them to my iMac. So if you send them over from a long time ago and stuff, you can just remember the fact that you've got these processes, and you can go over them and kind of show them to people again. But anyway, guys, on that note, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Please like and subscribe, share if you want to. It helps me get off the ground, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.